in contemplating about the supermind, because we are often slaves of words. So we sometimes we make two mistakes. One is that it is an extended mind reaching its ultimate capacities will arrive at supermind, and therefore we try to understand it and capture it by the mind. But as the Kena Upanishad says, Yan mansa na manute yena hor manomatang tadev brahman tvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate. That by which the mind itself is known, but that which the mind cannot know. That is the paradox. Know that to be the Brahman and not this that men seek here. The second mistake we make is, this is one mistake. Mind, stretch it, we will reach the supermind. But there is a complete change of the way the supermind functions. We can reach, mind can lead us to the door of to the apex summit. But there is something else which is required, and that we will read as we go by and by. The second mistake is that, so supermind is very far. We should not even talk about it. On the contrary, supermind is everywhere and in everything. It is the determining power of the one. If without the supermind, the one would not become the many. So many means all this multiplicity. So literally, anything, any object of creation, mystic language, Mother and Sri Aurobindo has spoken sometimes of it as the thought of God. So any object can become to literally enter into some kind of a communion through the psychic door. It cannot be done by mental processes. For example, when we look at a stone, supermind is there. So what has supermind done in a stone? God is sleeping in the stone. He is gone to sleep. That's why the stone is a stone. All the omnipotence of God, all the omniscience of God, as if it were held back. And only that much where we see the stone. So in looking at a stone, we can see something of some glimpse of that. Or when we look at a flower, God is smiling in the flower, is scattering His beauty lavishly through the flowers. So again we see a thought of God, a quality, some aspect or the other. And what does supermind do? At every level, even the physical processes will work in a way that the flower will bloom the way it will bloom. Actually, the fact that there is a divine consciousness working everywhere is so evident that only the rigidity of the human intellect will miss it. Because if all was a random chance, there would be nothing but chaos. There would be no order. Then, if we look at the galaxies, again we see the same thing. That's how Sri Aurobindo describes it, different places so beautifully. The hand that sent Jupiter spinning through heaven spends all its cunning to fashion a curl. He is lost in the heart, in the cavern of nature. He is found in the brain where he builds up the thought. So in everywhere, in the flower, in the beauty and pattern of flower, he is woven. In the luminous net of the stars, he is caught. So if you look at the galaxies, how they are spinning. Again, everything in a state of order. Just imagine these suns, these galaxies, mind-boggling, absolutely mind-boggling. They don't collide as often as one would in a world of chaos. Just imagine how many billions of light years and they are drifting into what we don't know. So there are several ways that we can contemplate this creation and get into some touch of oneness. Or else we can, and that's another way that one can contemplate the supermind. coming back to us, we also owe our origin to the supermind. We are not just creations of animal mud and mire. And the proof is that all of us carry instinctively a need for order and harmony. And as man evolves, the need for harmony becomes so strong, so evident, because truth is supreme harmony and delight. And as we evolve, all contradiction to this fundamental delight of existence seems like an anomaly. That's why Buddha is moved by the suffering which everybody sees, but takes for granted this is life, there will be, that's a crudest kind of, this is life, it will be thodi khushi, thoda gum. No. A sensitive mind, which is an awakened mind, finds it as a striking anomaly to what its natural intuition says. This world should be a world of delight, of beauty, of love. So as we grow, the need of these things become more and more prominent in nature, because we are approaching the courtyards of God. Courtyards of God is the overmind. And inside, when you enter, then you have the mansion of the divine supreme. That's the supermind, which determines. So everywhere it determines everything as a real idea. That's what we had read last time. So what about things which appear, evidently little crude? For instance, cockroaches. Many such things. Now, it's interesting. The mother at one place said these are creations of the vital world. So what is the supermind there? It is there. But the beauty of supermind is because it is infinite consciousness, infinite existence, infinite delight, and hence infinite possibilities, it holds within itself the possibility of opposing itself. So death comes, we'll read. So its opposition also comes. But it is not done randomly. There is a wisdom behind it. By holding back its own deepest, highest summits, it allows the shadows in the plate. It ultimately helps us in the evolutionary process. And that's the real reason why evil is there. And all that we will read subsequently when we come to that particular chapter. But at this point, suffice to say, and that's what I was just contemplating, so much is going on all around. People see and they want to be activists and they throw themselves into it. But it is so strange. If we really want a world of beauty, harmony, delight, a world of truth, a world freed from all evil and suffering, then actually if one reads and understands everything in the universe, one will end up with the only ways going through Sri Aurobindo's yoga. There is no other permanent remedy. And one can read and see for oneself. It's not something to be convinced. And yet we don't undertake it. Everybody speaks of unity. The four wheels of the chariot of Jagannath. Unity, freedom, equality, and fraternity. You can't have these four wheels together unless one arrives at the supramental consciousness. Mere spiritual consciousness cannot do it. Casting oneself into the one cannot do it. Because then all is one. That doesn't explain to us. I mean, it can say that all of us have one origin. But see what happens when we say all has one origin. So what do? We feel we should get together, have a little meeting, discussion, maybe some meditation. After that, nice chai pakoda party. Each one has its point of view, puts it together. There is association, all this. And then we, by this, maybe some kind of chanting of mantra. And then we all will arrive at unity. The challenge is not unity, it's unity in diversity. And that is a challenge which cannot be done without the supermind. And just to give an example, after which we'll read about the divine soul, we'll complete. Because supermind is everywhere. Everywhere we can get hint of how it works. Take for instance the human body. I mean, that's nearest to my profession. So if you look at the human body, it all develops from a single cell. There is something in that cell that flows into everything. It specializes all these organs, different organs. So all is one in one level. But can the body say that I will provide to the liver, the spleen, the heart, the brain, everything the same amount of energy? I'll have a distribution, rationing system. Every day morning I'll give same amount of energy to everything. You take it or leave it. Socialism. No, body will collapse. You can't have it. Or can it be based on the capitalistic model? Heart is dear to me, so I'll give all my energies to heart. At the expense of the liver, we can't do that also. So what does the body do? Because all instinctive action is the reflex of the intuition which comes from the supramental realm. So you see what the body does, how it operates. When the liver needs more energy and the stomach needs more energy to digest, so it will put everything there. So that is the time after eating a good meal, don't go for exercise. Because body is on a sleep mode. When you do exercise, it has to divert all the energy to the other organs, even the heart. And if it is, naturally the body will not do adharma, provided it's not disturbed. So one may suffer a heart attack. That's a time when the body resources are diverted to the stomach and the liver. So relax for a while. There is a time for exercise when it will divert everything to these organs. When the brain is working too much, then it has to divert everything to the brain, especially glucose, which it is utilizing very fast. Look at this knowledge which is in the body. So what about, how do we deal with, see this oneness, all is one, Bonhomie doesn't teach us how to really deal with things or people or groups which are as if contradicting the basic fabric of humanity. Body will teach us. What does the body do when a part is attacked or diseased? Body first isolates it. You will see that all around it, it immobilizes. It doesn't allow it to spread anywhere and everywhere like Sharanati. Then it attacks it. Very actively it attacks. It sends all the forces to correct the disease. If it cannot, by some means, or the disease becomes like a cancer, so then the way of dealing with it is, the surgeon says this has to be removed for the health of the body. The rest of the body will collapse. There is a fourth remedy which nowadays has come for cancer, which is of course very interesting. Since we are talking about it, I can just passingly mention. Don't quote me. I am not prescribing this at my own risk. Don't take me to the court saying he said this is the remedy, ultimate remedy. See why cancer returns after removing the organs. We say, oh, somewhere the cell has gone inside. No, because the root is in a certain tendency of the cells to proliferate. And this tendency is there inside. It's like a greed which has come into the cells. It's there in the subconscious. By habit it will proliferate. So, you remove the whole organ plus things, but if that is there, it will come up. There is every chance of coming up. And you can't always keep removing. So nowadays people talk about love as the treatment. Now, of course, this love has to be understood. You have to tell these cells, don't get so panicky, don't behave like this, don't be so greedy. Otherwise, you will also finish and everything finishes. Now, we don't have that power of love, so please don't try it. And it's certainly not somebody else giving love to us and healing us. So it's... But there are actual books written by real doctors who are dealing with oncology who speak about it. But it does touch the core of the problem. Because ultimately all this can only be healed when it is transformed by the power of divine love. If we go to the root of this proliferation, what is it? It's due to greed. Cells are greedy. They want to, eat from everywhere and everything. And multiply like locusts. Some people believe in multiplying, having too many children. It is like same thing, cancer. Cancerous cell want to multiply very fast and destroy everything. So why this greed, excessive greed in the nature? Mother has said about it, tumors are because of that greed in the nature. So greed comes from where? From the abyss, which is hungry, hunger that is death. I want, I want, I want. And abyss is such a thing that any amount you can stuff into it, it will, like food. You eat and digest and feel hungry again, hungry again, hungry again. But the only power that can fill this abyss and fulfill this abyss is the power of love. That's why Mother speaks about divine love which enters and transforms nature. But obviously, she is not talking of this human love or love as we experience, love as we understand. So, this medicine is not to be applied unless. But that is why when we pray, aspire to for this love to act upon us, Mother says it requires a certain degree of readiness, preparedness. That's why ultimately for any problem of this universe, if you have to look for the ultimate cure, it is transformation. So if we are really concerned about earth and not just about individual salvation, if you really want unity, freedom, equality and fraternity, that dream, we all dream at some level to be realized, then supramental transformation. And this urge is instinct within us because our origin is in the supermind. That's what we read yesterday, that we as the Jivatma, its origin is in the supermind. Here, something of that has entered as the soul, which develops over a period of life as the individual psychic being. Because the divine wants individualities, as we spoke about it yesterday. And then this psychic being unites with the central being, which is in the supermind, and then the real play begins. Until then, it is all a practice match. That's why Mother says, problem with human beings is they take life too seriously. It doesn't mean just throw it away, but she says that this is a practice match. Like what do you say to a child who is worried about every exam? You say, real exam will come when you are in 11th, 12th standard. This is nothing. This is just you are practicing, polishing. If you fail, you learn and grow. In fact, next level is real exam is the exam of life, not even this exam, whether you succeed or fail. This is only a tutorial. So that way when we look at life, then we understand how in the supermind all our stumbles, everything is foreseen. Because it knows in that cosmic poet's mind, everything is already there as a seed idea. And it is in a space which is not yet a space, a time which is not yet a time. So what does it mean? It means spaceless, infinite, or eternal time. That's how cosmic poet. And then it releases itself into creation, just like the 1,000 rays of the sun emerging from the sun itself. And these rays form the Swarlok of the rishis and then go downward and downward. And it gets into the mud and so on and so forth. So what is life out there? This is because this is what life will become, is destined to become. And we all aspire for such a life. So we read about infinite existence, we read about infinite consciousness, infinite delight. So what does it mean? That each existence, because in the supermind, supramental consciousness, it's not just a consciousness, it's a plane where there are beings. Already they are existing. And they are not just disembodied souls. The soul is there, but it connects with each other. There is a beautiful line, a diapason of soul interchange. Each one is a mode of expression of the infinite. But it also knows that the other is also a mode of expression of the infinite. For the sake of convenience, we can say that each one knows God within, but also knows that everything is God, and God is within everything, and all is within God. It knows. So there is no wrestle. It's like when somebody suddenly comes and pushes us from behind or gives a thappa, friendly thappa. First reaction is, who is this person, ill-behaved, ill-mannered? When you look back, you see your friend is there. Hari, how come? Within a moment it changes. So key to brotherhood, that is the key of brotherhood. There are so many beautiful stories in Indian thought which have presaged it. They didn't realize it, otherwise life would have been different. But they glimpsed it. And Shri Krishna's stories are there. One of them where Arjun goes at the end for the Ashwamedh Yagya, and then he meets a person, Pravir, he challenges Arjun. And because he says, it's my dharma, he knows he's going to die. And there's a very beautiful dialogue between him and his mother. And he says, Mother, what should I do? He says, you should fight because that's your Swadharma. And we'll come to Swadharma and Subhav. But I am going to die, I am no match. He says, yes, yet you must fight. Because this is your Swadharma. So he prays and goes, and whatever Arjun does, nothing is happening. So Arjun says, who is this inconsequential fellow? I just can't. The warrior Arjun, the hero of Kurukshetra, is not able to do anything to him. So Krishna smiles and says, you can't kill him like this. Every arrow he is remembering me and shooting at you. So what do you do? He says, okay, wait. Now you do the sandhan. I will sit at the spear point of the arrow. You shoot this arrow. So he concentrates. So Krishna is on the spear point. Then he shoots, and Pravir, because he is so much full of Krishna, he recognizes this is none else but Krishna coming to release me. And so he waits for the arrow and he dies. Dies what? He is released into Krishna. So even death becomes something like a change. And the whole thing is a play, and so many stories like that, where we understand that even what opposes is yet God coming in this form. And while I may have to fight, and I should fight if necessary, yet it's an act of love, like when a surgeon removes a cancerous part. He's not doing with anger, he's doing with love. Sometimes that's how, and that's what we see in that world. We'll just read a little bit. The divine soul living in the truth of things would, on the contrary, always have the conscious sense of itself as a manifestation of the Absolute. All the three poises of the supermind will be accessible to it. So we often feel, oh, Absolute means then all this is meaningless. We have to exhaust our karmas and merge into the Absolute. No. As Shubindu, in his poem Parabrahman, he writes very beautifully. He stung himself with bliss and called it pain. What a beautiful line. That's how he limits himself for the joy of the play. So here is, one will always have the consciousness of that transcendent Sachidananda, its play of conscious being it would be aware of as manifestation of that in forms of Sachidananda. Page 163. And then the last bit of few lines. Both in the unity and the differentiation, it would be present to it in all its knowing, willing, doing, enjoying. It would be absent neither from its timeless self nor from any moment of time, neither from its spaceless being, nor from any determination of its extended existence, neither from its unconditioned purity, beyond all cause and circumstance, nor from any relation of circumstance, condition and causality. See, that's why, to make it very simple, in Indian thought, there is something which is very beautifully ingrained. We are watching nowadays that Ramayana, they show it. But Indian soldiers do it. So you'll see the difference between Indian soldiers and the Pakistani soldiers. So when they kill somebody, they take joy in mutilating the body. But Indian soldiers, when they kill somebody from the opposite side, there is a Maulana, who gives a proper burial, even to an enemy. Why? Because after this was a play. After this is over, there is no enmity. That's what we see in the Mahabharata. It is inbuilt in the culture. Even if that person may have done very dastardly acts, and I know real stories which I am not going into, where a group of terrorists had done something very, very horrible, cutting a Jawan into pieces, and these people got very angry in the unit and they wanted to do the same, and he had to stop. Yes, kill them, finish them. But not this. This is the difference. Bodies can be returned. We have so many stories where when the bodies of Kargil victims were returned, they refused to claim it. Why? Because we do believe. It is inbuilt. We have not read all these things. But it's there inbuilt in the civilization that when it's dead, then no more. There was no hatred. It was necessary in the play. That's what we see in some of these great things like, Trojan War. This so beautifully, Achilles doesn't enter the play. He has his own issues and problems. But when does he enter? When his nephew has been killed, mistakenly. That he is Achilles, because he had stolen the armor. Patroclus, he has stolen the armor and everything, he goes. So everybody thinks he is Achilles and he is killed by Hector. And when he dies, so Achilles comes to know. So there is a whole chapter in that book, Homer's book, on Iliad, on the body of Patroclus there is a war. That body has to be brought back. And that's why when Achilles drags the body of Hector, Priam comes and prays and begs him that give me back the body. Why are you punishing the body? And Hector, as we know, that was Dilip Kumar Roy, and when he came to know that Achilles had dragged his body, then he was very furious. But where is Achilles? So these are the truths. They end with that life. Your karma goes on to an evolutionary curve. Certainly there are lessons to be learned here, but it's not with the same person that you will interact. Oh, he killed me, I am going to kill him. It doesn't work like that. Yes, you have tendencies which are murderous and barbarous. So you have to learn your lesson and grow. So, in this, moreover, such a divine soul, page 164, we are beginning the passage, would live simultaneously in the two terms of the eternal existence of Sachidananda, the two inseparable poles of the self-unfolding of the Absolute, which we call the one and the many. So it's not just Sachidananda beyond creation one. That people have experienced. And one need not experience through the supermind. One can experience Sachidananda at any plane because it's everywhere. Mother describes as the gap between the ladder. But what is the difference? When we experience Sachidananda as from any stair, the mind, or even for that matter the heart, we don't get the secret of the many. So we experience the one, or we are in the many. So the law of many unfolding we don't understand. So we use terms like karma hai, len den hai, we have to just sort it out. But that doesn't explain the mystery. But in the supermind we understand the play of Sachidanand, the one with the many, because that's where the one and the many starts. So if we want a divine life upon earth, we have to deal with the many. Divine life is not just inner realization. That's why Sri Aurobindo made a difference between spiritual and the supramental. A spiritual person can realize Sachidanand. Quite a few have realized it. A spiritual person can even ascend in consciousness beyond the mind to a degree and realize in the intuitive plane or somewhere Sachidanand. But he cannot understand the secret of the manifestation, and therefore divine life cannot be lived. Inwardly you may be free, which is fine, good enough, but not the collective life of society. That's why they ended up saying that nothing can be done about it, because they didn't have the secret. But if all has emerged from the one, there has to be a secret. And that's what Sri Aurobindo is pointing out. All being does really so live, for to a divided self-awareness there is an incompatibility, a gulf between the true driving us towards a choice to dwell either in the multiplicity exiled from the direct and entire consciousness of the one, or in the unity repellent of the consciousness of the many. But the divine soul would not be enslaved to this divorce and duality. it would be aware in itself at once of the infinite self-concentration and the infinite self-extension and diffusion. So what is infinite self-concentration? This is how Jivatma comes into existence. All the multiple infinite qualities of the divine, he concentrates. That's why it is called sometimes as thought of God. So as we said, flower is the thought of God, mountain is a thought of God, river is a thought of God, the sun, the stars, the blue of the sky, the green of the forest, everything is a thought of God, trying to recreate that infinity through finite forms. And we ourselves, through Sabhava and Swadharma, are a thought of God, manifesting in one particular life in a particular way. But so are others thought of God, but in different ways. So, by concentration, there is a self-limitation. All that Sri Aurobindo will describe in the next chapter and later on, so we leave it for that. So what is meant by this concentration? It's like a person who is writing something, and that time he is concentrated literally on that writing. So at that point of time, he is the poet or the author, or whatever it be, or replying to an email. And if somebody comes, he may not even notice. And the person may feel that he is insulting me. No, it's not true. It's a self-concentration. But next moment when he looks up, oh, please come. Please be seated. Why? Because now the mode has changed. He is not telling him that, see, I am a poet, don't disturb. Like some people say, I meditate a lot, don't come near me. This is not meditation. That will not give us the secret of the many. So this is where the secret of the many, concentration and diffusion. Concentration are these, as Sri Aurobindo says beautifully in Savitri, object are his letterings. This is the Veda in matter, written in matter, book of matter. Object are his letterings. He has written this way. So one is, by concentrating, the Sachidananda limits itself, apparently seeming to forget in the object. But this only apparent. Sachidananda is aware inside. But if the object doesn't forget that it is not Sachidananda, then it can't be an object. This is the other problem, but all that for later. How to deal with it, Sri Aurobindo will take up every little bit of the problem and solve it for us. Or this space and time and beyond all that is also Sachidanand. So self-diffusion and self-concentration. By self-concentration we see the many coming into existence. It's like the same person concentrating on one part or another, on his brain, on his heart, or on his finger, or on writing, or in seeing a patient, or in cooking. Several aspects by concentration. So the one infinite being by self-concentration becomes many, many, many. How many? Countless many. Why? Because he is infinite. What about the population increase? Leave it to him. That's why he has made even forces which will oppose. He knows, he will handle. So, our task is to live in that consciousness towards which Sri Aurobindo is calling us. Not to lose either in Sachidananda as the one, or not to lose ourselves in the many, forgetting the one. But to know the one and the many together. This is hinted in Isha Upanishad. That's why Sri Aurobindo says Isha Upanishad is the basis of the life divine. So we see that, he says, Andham tama pravishanti, ye avidyam upasate. Those who live in the many, they are living in a darkness. But they who live in the one go into a greater darkness. They don't understand. It's like going into too much light. So you don't understand. Shadows don't exist. Dark doesn't exist. So there are beings with a spiritual consciousness who say, no, there is no evil, there is no, everything is good, all is fine. It's an illusion. Come out of it. But Sri Krishna, who is the Yogeshwar, he doesn't say that. He bids Arjun fight and conquer, slay the adversary. What a language. Because we see the hint there. This vast view of things is the mold of the truth consciousness, the foundation of the large truth and right, hymned by the Vedic seers. This unity of all these terms of opposition is the real Advaita, the supreme comprehending word of knowledge of the unknowable. So that Advaita which annuls the many, either declaring it as illusion or things which are only for a practical purposes. Sri Aurobindo says real Advaita takes into account, because then you have not really solved the riddle. You have cut the knot. So there is an inseparable gulf. He says it must take into account. That's why he's using the word truth and right. And of course vast. That's the discussion we were having the other day with someone, that we should be wide. But wideness without truth and right is very dangerous. Wide, we see what's happening in Europe. You need to have right also. But this right, who will say? Truth will alone can dictate. You can't make it a mental thing. So that's why truth, right and vast, satyam, ritam, vrahatam. The right here is not moral right and wrong, but with a capital R, which means the right arrangement, the right order, as determined by the supermind. Supermind knows where each thing should be. And we keep distorting the play, and the supermind keeps trying to correct from behind the veils. But now it wants to come actively into the play. So all those who understand this and will be aligned to the supramental truth of things which is trying to manifest will be uplifted. And all that tries to oppose it will by its own opposition collapse. So this is how, because it's the age of the supermind. The divine soul will be aware of all variation of being, consciousness, will and delight in as the outflowing, the extension, the diffusion of the self-concentrated unity developing itself, not into difference and division, but into another, an extended form of infinite oneness. So we have Chappan Bhog, or sometimes many dishes have been prepared. So you don't know which one to appreciate, which one not to appreciate. So what do you say? खाना बहुत अच्छा है. क्यों है? बनाने वाले ने, the person who has made it, food is excellent. But some people will ask, that's okay. Which is more excellent, or which is the best? So naturally each one will say differently. But are they divided? No. I may love aloo, and to me jira aloo is superb. But somebody else may love Karela. Does it mean I have to fight with him? It's the same food from the same. That's the whole concept of prasad. Thank God they don't give Karela in prasad. But they don't give samosa either. I've never understood why everything has to be sweet. No wonder we are so diabetic. So, but prasad. So, everything that you receive as prasad, Jagannath Puri, they give khichdi. So it's to be received. And it's all a joy. But there are variations. So that's how in that consciousness it allows for variation. It's not sameness that you take, mix everything and eat. Or you say, I will eat only this and not that. All these are mental cobwebs. Or I'll mix all rasgulla and gulab jamun and khichdi and karela and say, see what a great yogi he is. It means that cannot smell, probably corona or whatever else. So one should be able to appreciate the differentiation, not mentally. Sri Aurobindo's famous story, which is so wonderful and difficult to practice, of course, when he ate his food and suddenly the disciples, he relished it. They asked how, he said, nice. So after they asked him, suddenly after that it is prasad. So they tasted and found that it is lacking in salt. There was no salt in it. So they asked Sri Aurobindo that, but sir, there was no salt. You didn't say anything. Now Sri Aurobindo is not saying that it would have hurt your heart or it's okay, you have made it with love. Nothing. Sri Aurobindo says, but there is a ananda of saltlessness. That only the Lord can say. Ananda, even this is ananda. That requires, of course, to be one with the Lord. But that's how it sees the different forms. It doesn't mean that make every day without salt. But there is a delight which expresses itself in various ways. It will itself always be concentrated in oneness in the essence of its being, always manifested in variations in the extension of its being. So, all is Krishna doesn't mean that it's same. Sameness is not unity, it's uniformity. Unity by its nature implies there is diversity and yet there is unity. Otherwise, uniformity. So, but different ways. That's what we see again in the battle of Kurukshetra, that only Krishna was both sides, that Khatu Shyamji, barbaric story. Same thing that, every side is Krishna. And yet Krishna has put his weight on the side of the battlefield with Arjun for the victory of Dharma. But doesn't mean he has abandoned them. He is there also. All that takes form in itself will be the manifested potentialities of the One. This is a powerful sentence, so before I read it. So what it means is, one would say, oh, then Krishna has already done. No, Krishna has reached that point, given hints, but then he has left it to come back and finish it as Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo at one place says that we are continuing and completing the work that Sri Krishna initiated. And at one place he speaks about the avatars. And then he says, Sri Krishna, when he speaks of Sri Krishna, he says, who came early. You see, after that we see Buddha, but he came early. But he has to come later. But why it was necessary, he explains. But what is beautiful, he says, he comes early. Kalki only comes, takes it up and fulfills what Sri Krishna initiated. That's why we see the deep connect between Sri Krishna and Sri Aurobindo. So it's not that if we read the Gita, we'll realize that the supermind, no. Because Sri Krishna has held it back. He knows what is to be given at this point of time. But he also hints, na buddhi bhedam janahi. If those who know the truth do not try to confuse others, like sometimes we do, everybody should take, turn to spiritual life, everybody should take this movement, that's dangerous. Sri Aurobindo and the mother has cautioned it. Because if we try to do it, we are doing exactly what Sri Krishna and the Sri Aurobindo have told us not to do. So people have to be ready. When they are ready, each one in his own way will automatically find ways and means. In the extension, the divine soul will be aware of the three grades of the supramental existence, not as we are mentally compelled to regard them, not as grades, but as a triune fact of the self-manifestation of Sachidanand. So mentally we feel, okay, a supramental person at his will can go into trance and contact Sachidananda. At his will he can come back. No, they are three together. So when Sri Aurobindo was asked, how does the divine, how do you see? You see, Dr. Manilal had asked him this question. How do you see when I come into the room? He says, I see all of them together. I see the Brahman as Manilal. So Manilal is not cancelled. It's not a cancelled culture. Manilal is also there, Brahman is also there, and that's beautifully captured in his poem, which is on the cat, Despair on the Staircase. How does he describe a cat? First he describes a little bit about the body, and then he says, the mystery of the fur-footed Brahman. Whether she is a spirit, a woman, or a cat. All these three things together. Whether she is a spirit, because spirit has become all things. He is also seeing the feminine, the woman, which is also going to be probably her next life. Or cat. He is seeing all of them together. This simple poem reveals such a profound truth. So it doesn't cancel. It's not that he has to suddenly enter into a trance and see, oh, there is divine also in the cat. And this experience Sri Aurobindo had already in Alipur jail. When the mother says that the experience he had in Alipur was the supramental experience. But it started there. It got fulfilled later because he wanted to carry everything and everybody together. That's why he is Sri Aurobindo. Because he wants it for the entire earth. And then, yeah. Okay. So a few lines below. It will be able to divinely to conceive. Page 165, maybe 10, 12 lines from below. It will be able divinely to conceive, perceive, and sense all existences as soul forms of the One, which have each its own being in the One. Each is a soul form of the One, but with a special mode of manifestation. So there is the One, and each is a soul form. And life can become so beautiful, then there will be no quarrel, because each is the divine's journey in his own way. So things can be so wonderful. But all dependent, own being in the One, its own standpoint in the One, its own relations with all the other existences that people the infinite unity, but all dependent on the one conscious form of Him in His own infinity. The only example I can see is Mother. When we see with each one, she was so different in relation. And yet, it is the same Divine Mother. Everybody feels her love, everybody feels her. But with each one, she is dealing differently. And when we see that this something interesting about the supramental creation, that the disciples are not around a standard format. You take all the disciples from Champaklalji, A.B. Purani, Nalini Da, of course, one of the earliest, Amrit Da, and many others, Pavitra, all of them, Pranab Da, they are so different. And to each one, the mother has lifted them to their own supermanhood, if I may say so. Each is in his own right. Can't standardize. That each of them were told, meditate for 2.5, 3 hours every day morning. No. Somebody she has told, actually. I think it was Debuda, that meditate at night, at 1 o'clock he would sit and meditate. To somebody else he has written a letter. You don't need meditation. Work is enough. That letter also I have seen. So, you can't make any rule. And that's why people couldn't understand her action or his standpoint. Sometimes they would ask her, that mother, why did you change your opinions? He said, but I have no opinion. So, but you said something the other day, today you have changed. He said, yes, because I see at that point of time the totality of things and then I act. You turn it into opinion. You are the problem creator who is turning it into dogma, fixed dogma, rigid dogma. That's how religions come into existence. Champaklalji gives one very interesting example. And mother also says, that's why quoting her, she says that when people quote me, mother likes this, does not like this, they make it worse. Already there is ignorance. To that, when we say mother likes this and does not like this, makes it worse. What do we know what she likes and does not like? She is beyond likes and dislikes. But she acts on the basis of the truth that is at the moment. Amal Kiran also says so beautifully that we had gone one day and she refused. She was as if annoyed. And next time she said yes to the same project. Savitri, why? But we turn it into a rigid dogma. That's our problem. And Champaklalji says that there was a time when mother would not like artificial flowers. It seemed, she said she would take it and keep it away. But when you gave a live flower, it was like she would. She says, but later on, when maybe the flower making technology improved and there were beautiful flowers, artificial, she would really be very happy when, she received them. And then she would keep it very carefully. So he says, supposing somebody saw her at that point of time and came back to the ashram much later, he would not understand why things are the way they are. He would say, mother does not like these flowers. But not only at that point of time, it will constantly evolve. Supermind is eternal progression. It's not a static state of oneness. It will constantly evolve until it leads us to the thought, all things manifesting the thought of God, and even then it goes further from there. That is the difference between realizing the one within and turning everything into a fixed place. Standard format we'll find in all religious institutions or spiritual sectarian institution. There will be a place, there will be a kind of worship, there would be a method, standard mantra, standard everything. Even a bhojan shala, that's important after all, place to rest. But here we see ashram constantly going through churning, precisely because it is the supermind manifesting. It will keep on till everything is tuned towards that original idea. And then itself it will take the next step. So this is what Sri Aurobindo describes. So, I lost out on that sentence, page 165. In the beginning, it's very powerful. All that takes form in itself will be the manifested potentialities of the one. The word or name vibrating out of the nameless silence. The form realizing the formless essence. The active will or power proceeding out of the tranquil force. The ray of self-cognition gleaming out from the sun of timeless self-awareness, the wave of becoming rising up into shape of self-conscious existence, out of the eternally self-conscious being, the joy and love welling forever out of the eternal still delight. And that's why it means that the divine will deal differently with different people. This idea of sameness, everybody she should give the same amount of time, everybody she should smile, everybody she should give a flower. No. Because she is manifesting the supramental truth. And not a mind's truth which cuts things into fixed patterns and wants that to be replicated. And then we have this wonderful thing which gives us one hint of what we can do to enter this state. Here it's only a hint, not the complete, and we'll just complete that hint. Page 166. For these three are aspects of the one existence. The three aspects of the supermind, which is consciousness where one is prominent and the many are only vaguely present. Second, where the one and the many are simultaneously present. Third, apprehending consciousness where the many are becoming prominent and the one is stepping back. Like an author is releasing his poem into the book form. Now they are stepping out of his mind. So they have to grow and develop. Though he has foreseen everything, you can't suddenly in the middle you say, sir, can you change it? Say, now the chess board game has started. You can't arbitrarily, the rules of the game are there. You can't shift one thing without shifting all the others. So that's how the game ends. But ultimately the game is going towards a prefigured, predestined end. And that is beautiful end. Because what has come from the divine is going to end up with the divine. So he gives that clue that the Upanishad, the first is based upon that self-knowledge which in our human realization of the divine, the Upanishad describes as the self in us becoming all existence. This is the Advaita of one kind where there is only monism. So it is the one self which has become all this. This is a truth, but partial truth. There is a complementary truth. The second on that which is described as seeing all existences in the self. So this is the other truth. So this is the truth of the Dvaita Dvaita. The waves are there but in the ocean. They rise and they fall. When they rise it looks like an individuality and then they are the Dvaita Dvaita, or you can do variations of it. Visishta Dvaita, etc., etc. And the third, the self becoming all existences, is the basis of our oneness with all. The self containing, we miss the third on that which is described as seeing the self in all existences. That's where the Dvaita, each existence within it, there is this self. So each individual or individuality has its own validity. But the true soul individuality, the ego is its distortion, but that is for later. And then he gives this very beautiful hint. The self becoming all existences is the basis of our oneness with all. The self containing all existences is the basis of our oneness in difference. The self inhabiting all is the basis of our individuality in the universal. So when Sri Aurobindo was asked in 1916 by one of the readers of the Arya, what is the best idea to meditate upon? So he gives first various things and then he says, but the best idea to meditate upon is that which we find in the Isha Upanishad. That all the self is in all. This is where we discover the true individuality because the divine is in us. How does he want to manifest in us? All is in the self to discover our universality with others, and all is the self to discover that utter oneness. So he says, which meditate upon, and there's the two verses from the Isha Upanishad, probably 6 and 7 or 7 and 8, where he talks about Yastu Sarvani Bhutani and Yasmin Sarvani Bhutani. So these two verses, Sri Aurobindo would recite when he would go up and down from the cow shed to the place where the prisoners were making things. These two verses from the Isha Upanishad, which describe this same experience. But then he gave us a simpler formula after 1926. All self is in all and all is in self and self is all. He simply said mother. Mother stands for all the three. So when we say mother, obviously everything has come out of her. And it is also true that she is seated in every heart because she is the origin, the source. And she has become this Prakriti and all else that has become. So that's a longer formula he gave in 1916. But he gave the simpler formula later on, though in no formula it is. And that is Ma. All is contained in that one single word. So all this he reveals to us, and then he says, this is what is, man will become like a god. And we can close with that even in relation. So on page 166 and 67, we are coming to the close. Thus, in its relations of enjoyment, the divine soul will have the delight of all its own experience in itself. It will be in a state of delight. It will have the delight of all its experience of relation with others, as a communion with other selves in other forms created for a varied play in the universe. It will have too the delight of the experiences of its other selves as if they were its own, as indeed they really are. So you see, again we see life of Krishna. With each one he is relating in a different way. With Duryodhan, with Arjun, with Vidur. Duryodhan ka meva tyago, saag Vidur ghar khai. With Duryodhan, when he goes to Duryodhan, he shows a different ruprang. And we see a glimpse in our own life which we don't understand and we get very confused. So we meet different people and with each one we have a unique relation. And there is a delight in that particular relation, in that particular form. And then we have another. With that there is a different relation. And so with this world of manifold world. So this is where the multiplicity we can handle. Creation is moving towards that. And the term that we can best use for this manifold relation is friendship. And all else is later, add on. Or brotherhood if we like. Because that's what the truth is. Manifold relation. Like we say Guru Bandhu. So even if you fight, he is Guru Bandhu. But different relation. With somebody you are enjoying, Raj Kachori. With someone else you are enjoying the discussions which are of a different nature. With a third person you want to come to the playground and watch cinema. All these manifold relations. It's not sameness. That Swamiji will go everywhere wearing a gerwa and he will only talk high things, don't talk to him about anything else. That's the mistake. That doesn't give us the clue of the manifoldness. And so we'll close now with Because it describes, because this unity is the basis of all its experience, it will be free from the discords of a divided consciousness. Same page, paragraph ending. It will be free from the discords of a divided consciousness, divided by ignorance and a separatist egoism. All these selves and their relations will play consciously into each other's hands. They will part and melt into each other as the numberless notes of an eternal harmony. But we don't want eternal harmony. We say, you are more close to this person. Are bhai, it's not like that. That's how people fought over Krishna. You are closer to this. He says, I am close to everyone. But yes, I am not sameness. I have a different relation with everyone. Then people started calling him Natkat, Nagar and all kinds of names. Even he's not telling truth. He's telling the truth. We can't conceive it. So he goes to Duryodhana also. He's very happily he's going there. And when he challenges him, then he shows the Vishwarup. He's not going with feeling of hatred, grudge. These fellows have done this. No. That's the state we have to arrive at. But what we have here is something else. Nor will the knowledge, will and delight of one soul clash with the knowledge, will and delight of another. Because by their awareness of that their unity, what is clash and strife and discord in our divided being will be there the meeting, entwining and mutual interplay of the different notes of one infinite harmony. This is why this creation has been made. Otherwise there would have been no many, just a few. And this is to extend and express itself in so many ways. One can learn it in so many, like at least to my little experience, you go to so many places all over the world. Everywhere you feel mother's family. And so close family. At that point of time, this is the family. And this spontaneous that state. Why? Because we are connected with the mother. You don't think, oh, I like to have this kind of thing and I have a different language speaking people. Odisha, till now I don't know Odia. They keep telling me, son of the soil, and I say, what kind of son? And every time they ask, when will you speak to us in Odia? And I always use Sri Aurobindo's technique. I say, next time. In Gujarat they ask, do you know Gujarati? I say, little bit Kem Cho. That's okay, it doesn't prevent. See, language creates a problem. But there is no division in the heart because there is love, there is oneness, there is the same divine presence. And it's a joy that things are different. If all centers were the same meditation centers, what's the joy of it? There is variety. God loves variety, infinite variety. But the core should be one. There should be no mistake about that. So that's how, and we'll close here now. Last is that even the opposite, its relation of will be there, the play of the divine omnipotence. For God is force, will and power. And what with us is weakness and incapacity will be the holding back of will in tranquil, concentrated force, so that certain forms of divine conscious force may realize themselves brought forward into form of power. In relations of love and delight will be the play of the divine ecstasy, for God is love and delight. And what with us would be denial of love and delight will be the holding back of joy in the still sea of bliss, so that certain forms of divine union and enjoyment may be brought in front in an active upwelling of waves of this bliss. That's how the divine sees. So we see hate. He says if there is hate means basically, love is there. No, I am indifferent. Love is there. That's why you are trying to be indifferent. It's an effort. It's there. That's how when somebody had thrown roses at mother and gone back, you don't love me and I am going. Mother goes, Vasudhaben goes with a card, gives the card first, keep it there. Do you want to know what mother said after you came away? Okay, tell me what mother said. I am packing anyways and I am going. Mother said, she does not know how much she loves me. Mother is not saying that she does not know how much I love her. See this lady, arrogantly she has thrown away. No. She says she does not know how much she loves me. That's how the divine sees this world. So we'll stop here and continue tomorrow. That all this is wonderful. But then what is this world? Why it has come into being? And is there a way we can transit? So Shubhendu will take us step by step, holding the hand. That's why Life Divine is so fascinating. People often ask why he has written so. Because he wants to not miss even a little minutest step on the way. So we meet tomorrow. Jai Ma.